All right. Start sharing screen. Anytime you have a question, just either put it in the chat or just unmute yourself. This is for you. It's all to help you guys. So please don't hesitate. All right. So, please read through the renewal application. I think it's a great idea to ask your board members to read through it as well. I think it's an excellent partnership that you as the head administrator are probably going to be writing the entire thing with help of your business manager. Having the board members read your responses, or if you practice your presentations, practice in front of them, they can act as a stand-in PEC and, have that in their mindset. Like, are you really telling me what we do here? Are you really telling me what we've done here? And that should help you get to a better application. I also really think, I know a lot of you have been in front of the commissioners for many, many times, and you don't get nervous, which is awesome. But if you haven't been in front of the commissioners before, or you have not in front of them very often, you haven't gone through the renewal process, practicing your part in the renewal hearing in front of your board, I think will be helpful. So the other reason is, and review your contract, of course, but I also want you to consider having some type of tracker. I think that'll help you stay on top of what's happening, particularly if you are assigning, staff to, or your business manager, et cetera, to do parts, or your board to review and things like that. I think that can be really helpful. So we're going to talk about lessons learned since I've been doing this since 2017, an overview of the PEC process, an overview of the application and the required appendices, the rubric that your responses will be gauged against, the new choices in the performance framework, and then what Brown can do for you, which is what I'm going to be doing for you throughout this year. All right, so my lessons learned. Sorry if I hope it's not too noisy. So have at least one member of your governing board with you at the renewal hearing. We sent out a survey to everybody, asking if they would be willing to go early, if they had no opinion, or if they wanted to wait until December, because there's 20 of you. There might be more if we have district schools that want to transition over as well. So the commissioners charter with the board, and they very much want to see board members and head administrators physically present in Mabry Hall. So you will, the PEC has started sending out a letter with specific questions. That will come, if that will come out, we'll go over the timeline on a couple slides. The renewal hearings, since we've been recording them, are available on the PEC's YouTube channel. School of Dreams, last year, they spent their entire time of their presentation at their renewal hearing addressing the concerns of the PEC chair letter. Other schools, their presentation was more based on, really highlighting their school and less on answering the questions. The commissioners really liked that SOTA specifically addressed the questions in their letter during that time. So that's just some feedback. Be prepared to answer questions about diversity. The commissioners often will want to know how your school population is different or like the traditional district that you're located in. Be sure to know how your student subgroups are performing academically. Know how your kids are benefiting from your mission and vision. This is a really big thing. It's one of the big changes that you're going to be facing. In addition to the academic choices, you're going to be having to craft a mission goal that covers 100% of your student population. So they really, really want to know that your kids are benefiting from the mission of the school and not just a particular grade. Bring students. Oh my God, they love students. New Mexico School for the Arts brought a choir. Those kids sang. They loved that. You know, Dream Danae transitioned back to the PEC. They brought a bunch of their kids. Kids are your super weapon. Everybody loves kids and loves to see kids. So if that's a possibility, please try to bring some kids. All right. And so some feedback from your peers, people have gone through the process before. What they've said is to tell you guys to start working on your application as soon as possible. Start working on getting signatures from your households now. Reach out for help from the Charter Schools Division and the Public Education Department and your board. Remember that the Charter Schools Division site visit team will give you time to produce any missing documentation. Utilize a tracker to keep on top of all the applications indicators. And again, bringing a council member to the PEC hearing. All right. Alums, current students, all of the above. Yeah, Steph, all of the above. You know, if you've, one of the things that they want to feel is that your school is making an impact, that it's, and that you have community support. So 2 years ago when Altura Prep went through their first renewal, they had the room packed with families wearing the same school t-shirt. I mean, they went like, we'll just not only pack the room, we'll show you how you know, that they're all here in favor of the school. Of course, that year we did the renewals as a roadshow. We went into the communities to do those renewals. That's not going to happen this year. Not going to happen with 20+ schools. It didn't happen this past year with 13 schools. It's just not feasible. So, so there are 2 timelines. We're trying to split this massive group so that everybody has the appropriate time for the process. So if you are going to be on the November, if you said that you were open to the November track, that application is going to be due September 1st. Then you'll have your site visit in September. The CSD will have your preliminary analysis by October 1st. At that October meeting, which is October 18th, the PEC chair would draft their letters to the school. That would be, you know, anything that they feel like they particularly want you to address. By the school would have by October 15th to respond to the preliminary analysis by the CSD. Then the CSD sends out their final analysis on November 1st. The hearings would be the 12th through the 14th. And the PEC, of course, has to decide by January 1st. They typically decide those on the day of. And then if you're on the December track, all of that is just pushed back 1 month. Steph, what's your question? You're muted, my dear. Steph, you're muted. Can't hear you.
So you said, sorry about that. I'm looking at what you said. I wrote this down wrong maybe, but you said at the October PEC meeting on the 18th, they would draft letters for us.
Yeah, so
but then
they'll look,
Okay.
did I say October? Yeah, 17th, 18th is their meeting. The commissioners review, they read through your applications.
Okay.
And they have questions.
Okay.
And
but if we respond, we have to respond by the 15th. So our response.
No, so thank you for asking that question. So the October 15th response is to the October 1 preliminary analysis.
That's what I suspected, but it's not related to the PEC.
It's not related to the PEC letters to the school.
Okay.
The letters to the school, if they're like, we're concerned that you're not serving your kindergartners, you would you would, during the hearing,
right,
you will say, we serve our kindergartners in these multitudes of ways.
And now I understand the order of operations. Yeah.
Right. So sorry, that wasn't more clear.
No, that's okay. Thanks for clarifying it.
Well, thanks for asking the question, so I could. All right. So this is what we tentatively have as responses from that survey. So we have not set a schedule yet. Nothing is set in stone at this time. Okay. But you can see the December hearings are going to be really jam-packed.
Hey, Missy.
Yes.
You spelled Taos wrong for us.
Oh, for crying out loud. That is, yes, I did.
Yeah, just want to make sure we get the right name. That's all.
No, I've renamed your school.
Okay, thanks.
Does it help to tell you all that I can't spell the word male either? I mean, I can spell them, I just can't type them. My fingers have minds of their own. And they're also very big. So sorry about that, Rich. I will fix that. I've already sent this out to you all. But, let's see. All right. So the evaluation standards for renewal are based on, did you complete your renewal application kit? The site visits that's done, the preliminary analysis from the CSD, status reports from other bureaus, if applicable, and then if you're transitioning from a local school, whatever some of the information from the local school district as well. There are 5 reasons that a chartering authority can use to deny renewal. And they are as thus: has the school committed a material violation of any of the conditions, standards, or procedures set forth in your charter? So if you have not committed a material violation, or you're not currently committing a material violation, that does not apply to you. If you have failed to meet or make substantial progress towards achievement of the PED's minimum education standards or student performance standards identified in your charter application. But of course, you do have the opportunity to provide extra data and things like that to argue your point as to why you should be renewed. Number 3, has the school, and if applicable, your foundation, failed to meet generally accepted standards of fiscal management. Number 4, that you're located on tribal land and that you have failed with ongoing consultant pursuant to the Indian Education Act. Now, you can be a school that is not on tribal land, although it's could be argued that we are all on tribal land. And I think that that's pretty much what the PEC goes with. So like if you should be consulting with area tribes, and you're not on tribal land, make sure that you're doing that. So I've the Indian Ed page on the PED website does have a list of the 23-24 schools that are impacted and have to consult. So if you're unsure, let me know, but that's one of the things that I'll be working on, getting that information and just ensuring that you guys are aware of the entities that you're supposed to be negotiating or consulting with, not negotiating. And then finally, have you violated any provision of law from which the state chartered school was not specifically exempted? All right, so to any questions about those 5 reasons? So Part A always confuses people. Part A is what the Charter Schools Division is going to fill out and provide to you. I am working on gathering together the performance framework evaluations for each of your schools over the term of the contract, so that I can give you that, you know, with the indicators. And did you meet, did you work to meet, did you did not meet over the term of the contract? Of course, it's just going to be 4 years worth of data. I'm going to try to get you the first 3 years, which should all be settled by now, as soon as possible, so that you can have that as a reference for what you're looking at. The other thing I can give you is a synopsis of the governance indicators for this year, and of course the previous years. So Part A is what we're going to give to you. You know, my slide previously said that we were going to prioritize getting that to you in August. Of course, if you're going to be going early, I'm going to try to get you as much information as we can in July. But we are often held up by other bureaus. So that's been our problem in the past.
So, Missy, will this
Yeah.
be including our the data that's coming from this year for the 23-24? Are they anticipating that they'll actually have the scores out by October?
They predict lots of things.
I just was curious about that, though. I was
Right. So
I mean, we did get scores in October. It just happened to be 2 years previous, which but you know,
Yeah.
I was curious if that we were going to be, because I know I'm the reason why I ask is that usually in the 23-20, you know, every year that we have this, we're given a window of how long that we're able to protest those scores, and if they're correct. And you know, I have found in the past, being a school that shares another school's 3 letters, that they did give us the wrong score.
Yeah.
And so I just want to make sure that that doesn't go to the PEC until that I've had a chance to look at and reserve and look at the data.
Right. So yes, that is critical. You know, of course, your schools, like the schools for the previous couple of years, have all been through the pandemic, and there's been missing data and missing time. So the application should provide you an opportunity to, because you'll know what your data is saying about you before it's kind of released to the public. So you should, I hope, have a strong sense of where you need to kind of provide more data to show what you're, you know, how you're progressing. And of course, that's one of the things, there's nothing within the state data. It's all just statistical. And it's great when it shows that you're, you know, a spotlight school and things like that. But where it really doesn't do a good job is is in showing what you're doing with your lowest performing students, because again, that statistical wash, it makes it look like you're not doing anything with them. But your internal data, what you have, you can provide information and narratives around, on average, when a student comes to you and they're this many grade levels behind in math, and they, work with your program, and you're seeing this much growth. So the application does provide you that opportunity to do that type of work. I do think about moving forward for your next contract renewal time, your next 5 years, that if you are, as head administrators, give your board an annual report on, how you feel your lowest performing students have done, how they've progressed, obviously redacted, do it by subgroup. You're gonna have that information. You've given it every year of the next contract term, so you'll just be able to pull those reports more easily than creating them whole cloth. But in part B, that's where you're addressing the indicators and the performance, the academic performance framework, the financial and the organizational. And you'll have the ability to at least provide additional academic information to support your supposition that you should be renewed. Part C is the financial statements. The business manager could be working on that as well. Again, I would recommend that your business manager provide this report annually to the board. And that way, when it comes to renewal time, the work has already been done, and it's just the final year, that 4th year, that you would be working on. Part D is the signatures of support. The only thing that you will be providing in your download of your application is the affidavit. We do not want the signatures. We do not need the signatures. The signatures need to stay at your school. I should say we do need them. The site visit team may or may not ask to see them, but that would happen during a site visit. We don't want those electronically uploaded. You can do them wet or dry. You can do them electronically. You can do them in person. You can do a combination and then scan all the in-person one in. You can look at your current families that were enrolled between the 80th and 120th day. If you've got a parent with multiple children, they can just sign for the whole family unit. You need to know that is, 3 children, and it's going to add up to the correct percentage. And that's what you are attesting to in the affidavit. But again, we don't want those signatures. We want you to have them with you so that when the site visit team comes, if they ask, they can see them. But that's that. Part E, it's the description of your facilities and assurances that you're in compliance with statute. So again, these are things that, I want to reach out to each of you individually, each school individually. Hey, do you have this? Do you have that? I'm going to be searching our records first to see, do we have a copy of your e-occupancy? Do we have all of the documents we need for your Board of Finance, which doesn't have anything to do with facilities, but anyway, I'm checking to see what we have, and then I'll be reaching out to you guys so that you don't have to duplicate your effort. And then if you're a district school and you want to transition over to the state, there's Part F, which has their own set of appendices. So I've used as an example here Amy Beale High School, just because they're an awesome school and they're easy to type. I don't misspell ABHS. So if you're a spotlight school and you don't feel like you need to provide any academic data supporting your narrative, don't do it, right? Like that, the academic data supporting your narrative is if you need to support your narrative. If you don't meet the standard, and if, you know, if you've met the standard, if you've, if you're a, you know, spotlight school, you don't have to do that. Now, maybe you're a spotlight school, but your EL subgroup performance is low. You could provide additional supporting data for that subgroup, you know, so then there's your mission goal data. If you've had any complaints that are, you know, that the school has gotten an official complaint about you've violated the Equal Rights Amendment or the equal employment or one of those things. So it's not just like every complaint that you've had from a parent who doesn't like, or let's say a student who doesn't like the food that you serve. It's not that, it's a more official complaint, and the application does lay that out. So if you don't have any complaints, it's NA, it's not applicable. Then the affidavit for employee petition, affidavit for household petition. So again, I've talked about your households. Certainly get your employee signatures as well. Again, those stay with you. You do not submit those. You're just submitting the affidavit. Your lease agreement, your facility master plan. Why we have you upload those, I don't understand, but we do. All right, so the rubric for Part B meets the standards means in each year of the contract term, you have demonstrated a demonstrated record of meeting all the standards, which is supported by evidence. So then you're going to meet the standard. You demonstrate substantial progress in two ways. Either, and this is the next, it's the working to meet, demonstrate substantial progress. So you can either demonstrate through data or you can demonstrate through systemic improvement. So data, clearly you have data that shows that what you say in your academic narrative is supported by data. Through systemic improvement means that you are in your narrative describing the specific adult actions that the school has taken to improve performance and outcomes by addressing the cause of the inadequate performance. The site visit team needs to be able to verify the implementation of those reported improvement actions by evaluating specific evidence at the school site. So again, you know, really focusing on the things that the adults have done. And again, I do talk about in my board trainings every year that it's really important for schools to be tracking what they're trying. And if it doesn't work, it's important to be able to speak to it, because if you, and the other thing is that these efforts that you're doing, they live outside of the contract term sometimes, right? So the commissioners can only review your school based on the contract term. But say this year, you guys decided that you weren't happy with the progress of your English language learners, and so you were going to implement a new program. But you clearly aren't going to have a lot of data around that yet. And so you would want to speak about the efforts that you were doing, and maybe something just really didn't work. So we gave it X period of time. We felt like it wasn't doing what we wanted it to do, and now we're trying something else. That's a critical point. If you leave out the things that you've been trying because they didn't work, it just looks like you didn't do anything. So it is important to talk about the continual effort that you're trying to do, but it is potential that, you know, you're not going to have the data on that yet because you made that change late in this contract, the current contract. And then the final one is failing to demonstrate progress. So, if your narrative is focused on describing circumstances and excuses, you're going to be rated as a failing to demonstrate progress. All right. Any questions on that? And next time I'm going to go in more depth over each of the indicators. If there's anything in particular that you guys want me to address in the next session, just email me and I will include that. I will have obvious time for questions in the future trainings, but if there's a specific thing you may want to make sure that I answer because you're confused about, or you want to have more information, please let me know so that I can include that. Because now I want to start talking about, I'm just going to presume that you're all going to be renewed. I think that that's probably the best way to go through this process. Of course, it's nerve-wracking, and you want to make sure that you have the data to support why you should, and the community support why you should. But the commissioners have created a new performance framework. In it, they have choices for the academic framework. The 1A is the state accountability system. 1B is the outcomes for student subgroups. So no matter what, your students would still have to do the state accountability, right? So they still take the state assessment. And that can be option one. You can just go with that. Particularly if you're a spotlight school, it's a great choice to just go with that, because it's the least amount of effort for your school, for you, the head administrator. So if your school is historically and currently in the 51st percentile or higher in vistas, and you have the confidence that you'll stay there, and each of your student groups of 10 or more has a median student growth percentile of at least 45 on the state assessment, then that's an excellent choice. We do have a number of schools that are choosing that option this year. Albuquerque Aviation, Taos Academy, New Mexico School for the Arts, are three off the top of my head that have all chosen to just stick with the state assessment. Pros are that there's no additional data collecting or reporting. It's very simple. The con is that if you fall below the 51st percentile, or you're have median growth percentile below 45, you won't meet the standard. However, in the application, you'll be able to talk about the other efforts you've taken, right? Like, just like you're going to be able to do this year. Option 2 is the statewide assessment and an additional assessment like NWEA or iStation. And so how that works, and it's taken me a really long time to kind of figure this out. How that works is, you know, say the statewide assessment puts you in the 51st or above percentile, then that's it. Boom. You don't need to report out on the supplemental data. But if it doesn't, and this category, the academic performance, they've added an exceeds category. So there's exceeds, meets, what it demonstrates progress, does not demonstrate progress. So if you get a meets and you want an exceeds, and your supplemental data shows that you exceed, then you would use that data to get that higher rating. If you're demonstrating substantial progress in one area and you've got the supplemental data to show that you meet it, that will boost your rating up to meets from demonstrates. So it's a great way to, you know, to boost up your rating with the appropriate data. So, and I guess that's what I've just said. The con for this is you need to collect and report on internal data. So the good thing is that this year we're working through, like, if you're going to use NWEA, we're working on describing which reports you're going to pull. And then it's, what time frame of these reports going to be pulled. Same with iStation. So that work should be done. And it would just be telling you, this is when you need, what reports you need to collect and when you need to report on them. So again, this kind of goes through that, you can use that supplemental data to improve your overall rating. It's a lot of fiddly information. I don't really want to read through all of it. You guys can read through it. If you have any questions, you can ask me and I can just address it at the next meeting. There do need to be business rules. And of course you would be choosing, if you're choosing option 2, you're choosing option 2 for both your whole school and the subgroups. If you're going to choose NWEA, that's going to be for both the whole school and the subgroups.
Oh,
But there's within the business rules, there's ways
yeah.
to
Sorry, okay.
make it so that
they can't-
the numerator
they
and the
can't
denominator are as advantageous as possible to showing your school in the best possible light. So I'm not going to go
Okay.
through all these, but I'm giving you this breakdown of the information
Sorry
of the business rule for exceeds,
Okay.
meets,
All
approaching,
right, thanks.
and this is also for does not meet. So this is what we've come up with so far. This is what will be in your contract if you're going to choose this option. They'll, how are you going to show the proficiency and growth criteria in both reading and math? If you're using NWEA maps, this is the achievement status and growth summary report is how you're going to show all these things. If you're thinking about a type of assessment that is not NWEA maps or MASA or iStation, I think I have is the next slide. Yeah, then, these are the ones that the schools have come up with this year. If you want to propose something else, you understand that you have to be able to say, I can pull this report at this time that's going to show at or above grade level equivalent information, growth targets, equivalent of 1 year's worth of growth, and growth percentile. So those are the things that are that the commissioners are going to want to see in this supplemental information. So, but this is what so far has been determined for these assessments for this current cohort that's about to go into contract negotiations. Now, option 3 is, again, for those schools that used to be classified as supplemental accountability. What the M stand for? Anyway, doesn't matter. This is, again, you still have to take the statewide assessment, but you are saying, we do not want you to look at the statewide assessment data when you assess us. You're going to be offering up alternative assessments for each of the indicators and vistas. There is a snag here that we've discovered. Middle College High School wants to use AccuPlacer for their supplemental option 2. But let me go back. AccuPlacer doesn't give you an equivalent of 1 year's worth of growth. So Middle College is working on trying to figure out if that's something that they can provide the commissioners. It's frustrating because and he's doing option 2. But if he was going to try to use that for option 3, the kicker is you have to have something that is translatable and matches vistas. And that's, I think, kind of the harder part. These have to have, the assessments that you're going to use have to have explicit growth targets and business rules for calculating the growth target. So the pros are you get the opportunity to hopefully present your students in the best possible light. But the con is it still has to align with vistas.
Oh, there we go.
So
All right, excellent.
you're going to create an augmented version of vistas. You have to provide all of the data. This provides just one pathway of goal attainment, just like the state assessment would. It requires assessments to be from New Mexico's list of approved assessments, or with a compelling rationale, you can use something else, but you have to be able to explain it to the commissioners. The assessment stays the same for the duration of the contract, and the assessment must be given to at least 85% of eligible students. So vistas includes reading proficiency, reading improvement, math proficiency, math improvement, EL progress, science proficiency, and regular attendance. Then if you're a high school, also the college and career readiness, growth and 4-year graduation rate, 5-year, 6-year, 4-year, 5-year, and 6-year graduation rates. Now, some schools have opted to use option 3, but like for science, they weren't able to find a science assessment that they wanted to propose. So they said for the science, we're going to use the statewide assessment. So that is an option. You can say, you know, we're going to replace reading proficiency and reading improvement with this. We're going to do math and math improvement with this. English learner progress with this. Science proficiency, you're going to look at vistas. You're going to look at what the state assessment is. So that is also an option.
I can't hear anybody. All right, well.
So ensure that at least 60% of your students in each subgroup can attain their growth target or earn an SPG of at least 45. And remember that your proposal must address all the components of vistas. Know your Vista percentile as you're going into deciding which of these options you're going to take. Know your median student growth percentile. CSD does not have this data. You have to provide this data to us for framework validation. So well, I'll get to that next time. So is the application process the same for local charter schools? So if you're a local charter school and you're going to stay with your authorizer, you have to find out what their process is. I don't know. They don't share that with me. I think that APS is a fairly similar process, but with the new performance framework, it's possible that there's a big difference between APS now and the state. I don't know, but I think that it's important for you to understand what your authorizer wants, and what their timeline is and what the expectation is. And that is something that should be delineated in your contract, right? And you should have data from every year through site visits of how you're progressing towards meeting the standards on the performance framework. Those are valuable tools for a school. That is the way your authorizer should be supporting you. You should have a clear understanding of how you're progressing in the requirements of your contract, to show that you're not going to have an issue with renewal. So again, the things that I'm going to be working on, the tick boxes that I'm going to be working on for you guys, throughout the next year. I'm gonna make sure that everything's in order for your Board of Finance documentation. Board of Finance documentation, which a district school does not require. So if a district school does want to, charter with the PEC, what we do is send all the paperwork that we need. There's assurances and statements to consult, and affidavits, for board members and business managers. I'm gonna be gathering your weighted NMCI numbers for the Part A. That's public information. We used to make you guys do it. We used to make you guys get a letter from PSFA. We're not doing that anymore. It's a waste of your time and it's a waste of PSFA's time. So we'll be gathering that. I'm working on compiling that 4 years worth of performance data into one document for you. For some of you, I'm probably not gonna be able to give you 4 years because I'm sure that my director would not be wanting me to give you things that haven't been, you haven't had a chance yet. So at least the 3 years worth of data, that you can see trends. So what you're gonna look for there is, if you have an indicator that's just meets, that's something that you don't really need to address. You don't really need to focus on. But if you have areas that are working to meet or does not meet, those are the areas where you want to make sure that you've got data really supporting the work that you've been doing. So one of the things, an additional thing that's been happening over the last couple of years is a rewording of your educational programs into sentences that gives you the opportunity to say how the Charter Schools Division will look for evidence of those things. So, say your ed program says that you're a Montessori school. We're a Montessori school as evidenced by classroom observations of students using Montessori materials, et cetera. If you're project-based learning, we use project-based learning as evidenced by what? The intent of this is to help you and to remove the variances of depending on like who from the Charter Schools Division is going on your site visit. Well, that's not what I think of when I look at project-based learning. So I'm going to rate them poorly because it doesn't look like my experience of project-based learning. It's giving you like, this is our way of doing project-based learning, or this is our way of showing Montessori. That's giving you those things. So I found that I would get more from my current schools that are going to be going through contract negotiations in a week by doing that work for them. And so I will probably be doing the same with you all. It's not a huge urgent priority, but it's something that I want to be able to have for you and have you thinking about probably by the fall, so that you can really, a lot of people's ed programs in their current contracts have lovely statements about, kind of what your vision is. But what the ed program needs to be is the Charter Schools Division is coming to look at our school and see what we do. And this is how they can see that the things that we're doing. So if it's something that you don't want to have monitored by the Charter Schools Division, we're going to take it out. If it's something that, like a lot of schools have, bilingual education, that's monitored by the Language and Culture Bureau. There's no reason for the Charter Schools Division to also monitor it, right? So that would be as evidenced by annual monitoring by the Language and Culture Bureau. So I'm going to be working on those things. And then throughout this process, you can you can make minor changes to your future contract. I certainly, you have charter representatives, make sure that we have that information correct. Looking to see if you have MOUs or nonprofit foundations. You can make adjustments or tweaks to your mission statement. The ed program, we will definitely be making kind of tweaks to, but if you wanted to, if you've traditionally been a STEM school and now you want to be a STEAM school, that's something that, depending on what you want to change, there may or may not be a requirement of having paperwork done, additional paperwork. But again, you're not being left to figure that out. We're going to be really strongly supporting you, making sure that we've got what we need before you're negotiating. Facility facts, again, I'm going to make sure that we've got that. If we don't have that, I'm going to be reaching out so that we have that. One of the things that the commissioners have been asking for the last couple of years is to know the percent of instruction in person versus virtual. So are you 100% in person? Are you 100% virtual? Are you some kind of blend of that? And if you're some type of blend, they want to know why, or what that blend looks like. That is not to say that, well, if we had a snow day or we had another global pandemic, we can go virtual. It is part of, they're wanting to know that it's part of your pedagogy. So is it part of what you do every year, day in, day out, that you have this blended, or is it 100% one or the other? So there will be timelines for contract negotiations. So if you're on the November hearing timeline, we're to start working on that in December so that you can be ready. I think that the schools that have gone through this year have had a very short timeline. The PEC wants to have all of your documentation like 2 weeks prior to the negotiations so that they can make sure that it's going to be a smooth process. So I want to make sure that you guys have as much time to make those decisions and be prepared for the arguments. If you're going to choose option 2, you're going to choose option 3. And those contract negotiations for the November group would be in February, most likely. And then if you're going through in December, all those documents would have to be uploaded by February 21st, and your contract negotiations would be in March, tentatively. I mean, that's what we're doing this year. It's probably what we'll do next year. So next time I want to answer any of your questions. I want to go over your mission specific goal data that you're going to be presenting. And I also am going to talk about mission specific goal moving forward in your next contract term. Presenting verifiable data. So the way we want you to present that academic data that you're using to support your supplemental information. Give you some examples for part C, that financial reporting. Talk about the application submission, renewal site visits, and more about the hearing process and presentation. And that's what I have for you today. I'm gonna stop the recording